Girl, I just spent months reading over 47 self-help books. And let me tell you, some of them were a bit of a waste of time. You know the ones, full of obvious advice like, just manifest it or wake up at 5 a.m. But these 7 books I will talk about now, they actually changed my life. And I mean actually changed it. Not just looked cute on my bookshelf. And make sure you stick till the end to hear about the last one, because it changed everything about how I view my journey. If you're done wasting time on books that don't deliver, stick around. I did all the reading so you don't have to. No fluff, just what actually works. All right, let's start with the first book that hit different. The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist. And when I tell you this book called me out, you know how sometimes you feel like you're your own worst enemy? Like, you know exactly what you need to do to get what you want, but somehow you keep getting in your own way? That's exactly what this book is about. I love how Brianna breaks down why we self-sabotage. Like, she explains how sometimes the things holding us back aren't actually other people or circumstances. It's our own patterns and habits that we didn't even realize we had. And my favorite part? She talks about how your biggest problems are actually showing you your biggest opportunities for growth. Kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Instead of beating yourself up about your issues, you start seeing them as signs pointing to where you need to focus. Let me give you an example. You know when you keep procrastinating on something important? This book helped me understand that it's usually not about being lazy. It's often about fear or some deeper block we haven't addressed yet. The biggest takeaway that changed things for me was understanding that the mountain isn't what's in front of you, it's what's within you. Once you start working on yourself, those external challenges become so much easier to handle. But here's what you really need to know. This isn't just another love yourself book. It's like having a friend who's not afraid to tell you the truth about yourself, but in a way that actually helps you grow. Next up is Never Split the Difference by Voss. And oh my God, this one completely changed how I view every single conversation in my life. So get this, the author was literally an FBI hostage negotiator. I know what you're thinking. Girl, what does that have to do with my life? But wait for it. Because once I started using his techniques, I realized we're literally all negotiating every single day. Like that conversation with your boss about a deadline, negotiation. Trying to get your roommate to actually do the dishes, also negotiation. Even that talk with yourself about whether you should go to the gym, yep, you're negotiating. And once you understand this, everything changes. Let me share something wild I learned from this book. Saying no is actually totally fine. Like, it's often just the start of the conversation, not the end. And there's this thing called tactical empathy that sounds intense, but is actually genius. It's basically about really understanding where the other person is coming from before you try to get what you want. I literally used this last week. My landlord wanted to raise my rent by $300. And instead of just panicking or getting angry, I used what I learned from this book, asked the right questions, showed I understood his position, and ended up only getting a $100 increase. Like, what? And don't even get me started on how it helped with my job. There's this technique where you repeat back the last few words someone says. Sounds so simple, right? But it makes people feel so heard. I used it in my last performance review and ended up getting a bigger raise than I expected. The best part? This isn't about being manipulative or playing games. It's about understanding what people actually want and finding a way for everyone to win. Because let's be real, life is way easier when you know how to have those tough conversations without making everyone hate you. Oh, and while we're talking about negotiation, let me make you a deal. Click that first link in the description to join our email community. Every week, I share tips and strategies about things like this, from negotiation tricks to confidence hacks that actually work. And I promise you'll get way more value than those fluffy newsletters that just tell you to manifest your dreams. Think of it as having a friend who's obsessed with personal growth and loves sharing the good stuff. No spam, no obvious advice. Just real strategies that work. Do we have a deal? Alrighty, so now let's talk about the book number 3, How to Talk to Anyone by Leil Lowndes. And this one's actually pretty personal for me, because let me tell you, I used to be that girl who would rather text her Uber driver that she's outside than actually knock on the door. Like, small talk, terrifying. Walking into a room full of people, instant anxiety. And this book completely changed that for me. Not in that fake, just be confident way that makes you want to throw the book across the room, but with actual techniques that make talking to new people so much less awkward. Let me share one of the biggest lessons from this book. You know when you walk into a room full of people and your anxiety is like, nope, Let's go home? The book taught me this thing about making your eyes light up when you see people. Sounds so simple, right? But it actually works. People start responding to you differently, and suddenly, networking events aren't so scary anymore. Here's another game changer from the book. It's called the flooding smile. Instead of that awkward immediate smile we do when we meet someone, you look at them for a second, then let your smile grow naturally. I know it sounds kind of weird, but trust me, try it once and you'll see how differently people respond to you. The best part? This isn't about becoming some extroverted social butterfly or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about having tools ready when you need them. Like, I still prefer a quiet night in with Netflix, but now I actually know what to say when someone asks me what I do for work without having an internal panic attack. I literally used these techniques at a work event last week, and instead of hiding by the snack table, my old go-to move, I actually made some genuine connections. Also used them on a coffee date the other day. Turns out there's a whole strategy for making people feel comfortable opening up to you. What I love most about this book is that it doesn't try to change who you are. It just gives you tools to express yourself better. Because let's be real, being shy doesn't mean you don't have anything interesting to say. Sometimes you just need to know how to say it. And honestly, the confidence you get from knowing how to handle social situations, it spills over into everything else in your life. From job interviews to first dates to those scary networking events we all have to go to sometimes. Book number 4 on the list is 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And I know what you're thinking. Isn't that the book everyone says is manipulative? But hear me out, because this one's actually mind-blowing when you use it right. Think of it like having a cheat code to understand how power dynamics actually work. Like, have you ever been in a situation where office politics completely blindsided you? Or had someone take credit for your work? This book helps you spot these patterns before they hit you. Let me share something that happened to me recently. There was this person at work who kept trying to make me look bad in meetings. You know the type. Instead of getting upset, I used what I learned from this book, kept my cool, let them talk, and then started quietly building alliances with the right people. A month later, they literally couldn't mess with me anymore because I had positioned myself so well. But here's what's really important. This book isn't about being shady or manipulative. It's about understanding how power works so you don't get played. It's like having a map of how people behave when they want something. And once you can read the map, game changer. My favorite thing from this book is learning when to keep your cards close to your chest. Like, you don't have to share every win, every goal, or every move you're making. Sometimes being a little mysterious actually helps you get ahead. And no, that doesn't make you fake, it makes you strategic. The best part? Once you understand these power dynamics, you can actually use them for good. Like protecting your team at work, making sure you get credit for your ideas, or just making sure nobody takes advantage of you. Hey, quick thing before we get to the next book. Can you do me a favor real quick and hit like and subscribe? It helps other women find us. And I love that we're creating this space where we can talk about actually useful strategies instead of just generic advice. We're just getting started. All right, let's talk about book number 5, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. And yes, I know this book is everywhere, but there's a reason for that. You know how we're all walking around caring way too much about what everyone thinks? Like changing our Instagram captions 17 times? Or overthinking that text we sent 2 days ago? This book completely changed how I think about all of that. Here's what hit different for me. It's not about not caring at all. It's about choosing what to care about. Like, the book basically says you only have a limited amount of emotional energy to give. So stop wasting it on things that don't actually matter. Let me give you a real example. I used to spend so much time worrying about what my extended family thought about my career choices. Should I take the safe job? What will they say at Christmas dinner? But after reading this book, I realized, why am I giving my energy to people who aren't even in my daily life? This isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about saving your energy for things that actually deserve it. Your big goals, your close relationships, your personal growth, that's where your emotional energy should go. Everything else, let it go. This book basically gave me permission to stop apologizing for my choices. And let me tell you, the moment you stop caring about everyone's opinion is the moment you actually start moving forward. Next up is Outlive by Peter Attia. And this one completely changed how I think about success. Because let me ask you something, what's the point of crushing it in your career if you're not healthy enough to enjoy it? Here's what hit different about this book. You know how we're all obsessed with quick fixes and 30-day challenges? Well, this book made me realize I was doing health completely wrong. Like, I used to think I was healthy because I did my little morning workout and ate my salads, but turns out there's so much more to it. Let me share what actually changed in my life after reading this. First, I stopped doing those random workouts I found on Instagram and started focusing on strength training. Because guess what? Building muscle in your 20s and 30s is like putting money in your health savings account for later. And can we talk about sleep for a second? I used to brag about only needing 5 hours of sleep, like it was some badge of honor. Now, I understand that good sleep is literally your body's maintenance time. So yeah, I'm that person who has a strict bedtime routine now. And honestly, game changer. The most practical thing I learned, it's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Like, I still have my pizza nights, but I make sure to get enough protein every day, move my body regularly, and prioritize sleep. Simple stuff that adds up over time. Oh, and here's something wild I learned. That yearly checkup at your doctor, not enough. The book explains exactly what tests you should be asking for in your 20s and 30s to catch problems before they become actual problems. I literally took notes to my last doctor's appointment because here's the truth. We're all out here grinding, hustling, trying to build our empire. But your body is the foundation of that empire. And this book shows you exactly how to make sure that foundation is solid. And finally, the last but not least, we've got The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. If you were to read just one book, let it be this one. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Isn't this supposed to be a list of self-help books? Trust me, this one might just be the most important one on the list. This isn't your typical follow these 5 steps to success book. It's actually a story about a shepherd boy following his dreams. But let me tell you something. You know those moments when you're wondering if you're on the right path? Or when you get those random signs that feel like the universe is trying to tell you something? This book is all about that. It taught me that when you're going in the right direction, the world has this weird way of helping you get there. Let me give you an example from my own life. I was stuck in this job I hated, but I kept seeing these random opportunities pop up in a completely different field. Like, people would randomly mention it. I'd stumble across articles about it, even overheard conversations about it. I used to ignore these signs, but after reading this book, I started paying attention. And guess what? Those random signs led me exactly where I needed to go. The most beautiful part of this book is that it's not about forcing things to happen. It's about learning to keep your eyes open for the signs, trusting your journey, and understanding that sometimes the longest path is actually the right one. I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but trust me, this book has a way of finding you exactly when you need it. And every time you read it, you notice something different. It's like having a friend who tells you exactly what you need to hear, right when you need to hear it. Maybe the fact that this video found you is also a sign that you're going in the right direction. Keep at it, girl. Okay, girls, so let's get real for a second. Reading these books is just the first step. I know how easy it is to feel inspired and then do nothing, but knowledge without action, that's just entertainment. These books are meant to transform your life, not just look cute on your shelf. So here's my challenge for you. Pick one thing from each book and actually try it this week. Negotiate something using Chris Voss's techniques. Do that scary thing you've been avoiding from The Mountain Is You. Practice that flooding smile from How to Talk to Anyone. Just start somewhere. Remember to click the first link in the description and join our email community. Let me know in the comments which book are you reading first. And remember, reading is nice, but implementing, that's where the magic happens. See you next time, XOXO Power Girl.